Before the sun rose on the Arizona desert, before the world remembered its troubles, a single decision made by a weary rancher would change the fate of an entire valley. It began with the sound of 2 horses riding toward his lonely ranch, and ended with the earth trembling beneath the hooves of 200 Apache warriors. What none of them knew then was that this dawn would test the limits of trust, honor, and the fragile hope that can exist between enemies. And it all started with one man giving away the last thing he owned worth anything at all. The rancher woke that morning with a heaviness in his chest, the kind that comes only when a man has lost nearly everything. His land had been carved into by drought, his cattle thinned down to bones, and the single brown mare he had left, Luna, was all that stood between him and complete ruin. Yet when he opened the gate that morning and saw 2 Apache girls clinging to each other, barefoot, trembling, he felt something shift in him, something that told him this day was meant to unfold differently. They were young, no more than 15 or 16, with dust on their faces and desperation in their eyes. One of them, the older sister, tried to speak but her voice cracked like a twig under weight. "Our father, wounded. We need help. We need a horse." The rancher stared at them, at their shaking hands, at the youngest girl barely holding back tears. He could have turned them away. No one would have blamed him. The Apaches had raided nearby ranches for years. Neighbors warned him that kindness to the wrong people could cost him his life. But the rancher also remembered another truth: pain was universal, fear was universal, and even enemies bled the same color. He looked at Luna, who nuzzled his shoulder with the quiet trust of a companion who had seen him through storms. Giving her away would mean he had no way to bring in wood, haul water, or travel for work. But the sisters, they were just children trying to save their father. His voice was rough when he finally spoke. "Take her," he said, placing Luna's reins gently into the older sister's hands. "Go save your father." The girls froze, shocked. "You give your only horse," the older one whispered. The rancher nodded once. "A life's worth more than an animal." Something deep and grateful flickered in their eyes. The younger sister touched the mare's nose, and for the first time since arriving, she smiled. They rode off into the breaking light, their silhouettes swallowed by the rising sun. The rancher watched them go, unaware that this act of compassion would soon place him at the center of a moment that could end in either peace or his death. Dawn had barely stretched its first pale fingers over the valley when the rumbling began, soft at first, like distant thunder. The rancher, half asleep by the dying fire, sat up sharply. He knew that sound. Horses. Many of them. The earth itself trembled under the stampede. He stepped out onto his porch just as a rolling wave of dust rose from the canyon. And then he saw them, hundreds of riders, their hair braided with feathers, their faces painted with the fierce colors of war. 200 Apache warriors advancing on his ranch. At their head rode a tall, broad-shouldered man with a bandaged arm, and behind him, Luna, led by the 2 girls from the day before. The rancher's heartbeat stilled. He had a split second to consider running. But he didn't move. If death had come riding, he would meet it standing. The warriors surrounded him in a perfect circle, silent except for the snorting of horses and the creak of leather. The chief dismounted, stumbling slightly from his injuries. The girls rushed to his side, speaking rapidly in Apache, their hands gesturing toward the rancher. The chief studied him for a long, heavy moment. The rancher held his ground. Finally, the chief placed his hand over his own heart, then extended that hand toward the rancher. "You give your horse to my daughters," he said in slow, careful English. "You save my life." The rancher swallowed. Any man would have done the same. The chief shook his head. "No. Many men fear us. Many men hate us. But you choose compassion." He turned to his warriors and lifted his good arm. They all dismounted. Every last one. The rancher's breath caught, unsure what this meant. Then the chief spoke again. "This land, your home, will be protected. No Apache will bring harm to you or your kin. You are our friend, from this sunrise to the end of your days." The rancher didn't realize he was shaking until the younger sister stepped forward and returned Luna's reins to his hands. "She helped us," she said shyly. "But now you need her more." Emotion rose like a tide in his chest. Keep her, he said softly. She saved your father. That makes her your family now. The sisters looked at each other, then at their father, who nodded with pride. The chief placed a hand on the rancher's shoulder. Honor is repaid with honor. What followed was something the rancher would never forget. 200 Apache warriors raising their hands in a gesture of respect toward him, a silent oath carved into the air of the desert morning. As they rode away, the rancher felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Not because he'd saved a life, or because his ranch would now be safe, but because he'd seen what humanity could look like when fear did not win. In a land known for blood and dust, one act of kindness had rewritten the horizon. And though he had little left, the rancher realized he had earned something far greater than any possession. He had earned peace, between enemies, between hearts, and within himself, and sometimes, that is all a man truly needs.